The no escape theory describes an afterlife where consciousness never fades and awareness continues forever without the possibility of change or rest. It is sometimes called eternal consciousness, and it transforms the idea of immortality into something terrifying rather than comforting. According to the theory, the soul never stops existing or feeling, even after physical death. Some religious traditions refer to this as eternal conscious torment, where a person remains awake and aware while experiencing endless suffering. Philosophers have long debated whether such an existence could be morally justifiable, or if it completely contradicts the idea of a loving or just God. Critics argue that endless awareness without hope of escape or forgiveness turns time into a prison rather than a path of redemption. Supporters of the concept claim that eternal suffering is a natural consequence of divine justice or separation from God. In modern psychology, this theory has also been explored as a fear of being trapped in one's own mind after death, unable to shut off thought or emotion. It suggests a consciousness looping forever in regret, pain, or confusion, without the relief of sleep or oblivion. The concept of eternal return, also called the repetition cycle, imagines that life repeats itself endlessly in exactly the same way. Every event, every word, and every thought happens again and again forever. This idea appears in ancient cultures, including early Hindu and Stoic philosophies, but it became more widely known through the writings of the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche presented the idea not as a literal scientific claim, but as a test of one's values. He asked his readers to imagine that a demon told them they must live their life exactly the same way, infinitely repeating every joy and mistake. Could they accept it joyfully, or would the thought crush them? The theory suggests that if you could embrace eternal repetition, you would be living your life authentically and without regret. If everything repeats, then growth and change become illusions, and every failure becomes eternal. The disturbing part of this theory is not physical pain or judgment, but the weight of realizing that every action, no matter how small, is destined to repeat forever, locking existence into a loop without end. The perception loop, often called the self-made hell, redefines eternal punishment as a mental or emotional state rather than a physical one. It imagines an afterlife where the soul becomes trapped inside its own thoughts, regrets, and self-judgments. Instead of being punished by an external force, the person's mind creates its own version of hell. According to this theory, every soul relives its guilt, shame, or mistakes over and over again, unable to forgive itself or break free from its own memories. The punishment is internal and self-sustained, caused by the inability to change the mind's focus or perspective. In this version of hell, there is no fire or physical pain, only endless psychological repetition and emotional imprisonment. The simulation reset theory suggests that our universe is not the ultimate reality, but a programmed simulation created by a higher intelligence. According to this theory, when we die, the simulation resets our consciousness, effectively restarting our existence in a new timeline or version of the simulation. In other words, death might not be an end, but a programmed loop back to the beginning, possibly erasing memory but retaining experience patterns. Some theorists connect this idea to déjà vu, or unexplained phenomena that feel like resets. The notion is that these experiences could be fragments of past cycles breaking through. Others link it to quantum mechanics, especially the idea that observation affects reality, implying that perception and consciousness are part of the system's code. If a higher intelligence controls the simulation, are our lives meaningful, or are we test subjects in an experiment? Now, before we continue, I have something that I need to tell you guys. When I was a kid, on the 4th of July of all days, I was hit by a car. Fireworks, barbecue, and then bam, a trip to the hospital. Thankfully, I recovered, but for my parents, it was a nightmare, especially because of the insurance companies and them having to deal with the mountain of medical bills. And that's the reality for so many other people as well. Traditional personal injury claims are designed to wear you down. Insurance companies drag their feet, offer you pennies to what you deserve, and hope you'll just give up. That's why I wish my parents grandparents had known about Morgan and Morgan. There's a reason history remembers those who fought for justice, just like there's a reason why Morgan and Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. And for over 35 years, they've been fighting for the people, not the insurance companies. Their results are insane. In Florida, one client was offered just $350,000, but Morgan and Morgan fought for them and got them over $12 million. In Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million, which was 40 times higher than what the insurer wanted to pay. That's because when you hire Morgan and Morgan, it's like hiring a legal army. They've got over 1,000 attorneys and 100+ offices nationwide, and they've recovered over $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. And the best part, there are no upfront costs. Their fee is free unless they win. Submitting a claim is super easy. You can start in less than a minute with no endless appointments, overwhelming paperwork, or long waits. So if you're ever injured, don't settle for less and let the insurance companies win. You can just click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started with Morgan & Morgan today. In Buddhist cosmology, Naraka refers to realms of torment and suffering that are comparable to hell in Western beliefs. Though not eternal, souls are sent to these realms as a result of negative karma accumulated during their lifetimes. With that being said, Naraka is seen as a temporary state, lasting until one's bad karma is exhausted. Once that happens, the soul can reincarnate into a higher realm and continue its journey toward enlightenment. The Naraka realms are traditionally divided into hot and cold hells, each representing a different form of punishment that reflects the nature of a person's sins. The hot Narakas include places like reviving hell, where beings die and are revived repeatedly, or Avicii, the deepest and most painful hell, where torment never seems to end. The cold Naraka subjects souls to unbearable freezing conditions. The purpose of Naraka is not revenge, but purification. Buddhist teachings emphasize that every action has consequences, and Naraka serves as a realm of karmic correction. There are no eternal devils or divine judges. The suffering arises naturally from one's own deeds and mental state. The false heaven trap theory originates from ancient Gnostic teachings and has evolved into modern spiritual conspiracy ideas. It claims that the afterlife many people expect to enter after death may not be the true realm of divine peace, but a deceptive system designed to recycle souls back into the physical world. In this theory, entities posing as angels, gods, or even alien overseers manipulate souls into reincarnating, preventing them from achieving real spiritual freedom. Gnosticism viewed the material world as a prison created by the Demiurge, a false god who trapped divine souls in human bodies. When people die, they are greeted by beings of light who claim to guide them to heaven. But in truth, these beings are agents of the Demiurge. The soul is shown comforting images, convincing it to enter the light, which leads back into the reincarnation cycle. Some believe that extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings feed on human energy or emotions and maintain this soul trap to sustain their existence. The cycle of rebirth becomes an energy harvesting system rather than a spiritual evolution. The theory encourages awareness at the moment of death, advising souls to resist the light and seek true liberation beyond the physical and astral realms. Kur in ancient Mesopotamian mythology represents the underworld or the land of the dead. It is one of the earliest recorded afterlife concepts in human history, dating back to the Sumerians. Kur was not a place of punishment or reward, but a shadowy realm where all souls went after death, regardless of moral character. The dead were believed to live in a dark, dusty existence beneath the earth, feeding on clay and drinking murky water. The goddess, Ereshkigal, ruled over Kur, assisted by her servants and gatekeepers, who controlled entry into the underworld. To reach it, a soul had to pass through 7 gates, leaving behind symbols of its earthly identity at each stage. Kur reflects how the ancient Mesopotamians viewed death as a continuation of existence rather than an end. It was neither a place of eternal torture nor a paradise, but a dull reflection of life without joy or light. Offerings to the dead were made to ease their discomfort in Kur, showing the early human desire to maintain connection with ancestors even after death. The Great Silence, or the total isolation theory, suggests that after death, a person remains conscious, but in complete and permanent isolation. There are no voices, no divine presence, no other souls, and no response of any kind. The person can think and remember, but there is no one to listen. the science is absolute and endless. The mind continues to exist, but it has no one to speak to and nothing to interact with. Imagine being awake forever, in a dark and endless void, aware of yourself but unable to escape or make contact. If awareness continues forever without others, does it lose all purpose? Would memories bring comfort or only make the isolation worse? The idea turns immortality into an endless solitude that tests the very limits of what the human mind can bear. The dream that does not end describes an afterlife where consciousness never truly stops, but instead continues in a dreamlike state forever. In this vision, death is not the end of awareness, but a transition into a lucid dream that never fades. The person remains mentally active, experiencing an infinite sequence of images, stories, and emotions. Some people imagine this as peaceful and creative, while others see it as terrifying because it removes the final rest that death is supposed to bring. This theory suggests that life and death are both dreams within larger layers of consciousness. Reports of near-death experiences and vivid final dreams before passing away have inspired this concept. Scientists who study dreaming note that dream states can feel as real and intense as waking life, which makes this theory psychologically believable. If the afterlife depends on the dreamer's mind, then their mental state shapes the experience. A peaceful and loving person might create a paradise, while a troubled or guilty mind might create a nightmare that repeats endlessly. This gives importance to emotional and spiritual preparation before death. Practices like meditation and lucid dreaming are sometimes mentioned as ways to influence what one might experience if consciousness continues after death. Philosophers raise another question about identity. If a person continues to dream forever, are they still the same person, or just a reflection of who they once were? The dream that does not end theory captures both hope and fear, and replaces the idea of heaven or hell with a world built entirely from the contents of one's own mind. The divine indifference theory suggests that God, or the ultimate higher power, is detached from human emotions, suffering, and moral struggles. It argues that while many people imagine God as loving and responsive, the evidence of pain, injustice, and unanswered prayers might point to a different truth, one where the divine is silent and unmoved. Some philosophers and theologians have argued that God's silence has a purpose. They claim it teaches endurance, tests faith, or allows free will to exist without interference. Others, however, see it as evidence that the universe might not have a moral overseer at all. Some propose that the silence of God forces humanity to act with compassion and responsibility, rather than relying on divine rescue. The issue becomes more troubling when applied to the afterlife. If God seems indifferent to human pain on earth, will that same detachment continue after death? Many believers fear the idea of eternal separation or divine neglect more than punishment itself. The collective Hive afterlife is a theory that imagines death not as the end of consciousness, but as a merging of individual minds into a shared, unified awareness. In this vision, personal identity fades as countless souls combine into one vast network of thought and experience. The theory suggests that once a person dies, their sense of self dissolves and becomes part of an interconnected spiritual system where memories, emotions, and ideas are shared equally among all participants. Some describe this theory as peaceful, saying that after death, pain, ego, and fear disappear, leaving behind only empathy and connection. The darker interpretation sees it as a kind of loss, where personal freedom and individuality vanish. People may continue to exist, but as indistinguishable fragments within an endless mental web. Privacy, personal thought, and moral accountability might no longer exist in such a system. Cognitive scientists explore whether shared consciousness could truly exist beyond the brain, or if individuality is necessary for awareness. This theory asks whether individuality is a gift to protect or a limitation to overcome. If eternal life meant losing one's private self, gaining total unity with all other beings, would that be heaven or something entirely different? The cosmic recycling loop presents the universe as an endless cycle of renewal, where everything that dies eventually becomes part of something new. From a scientific viewpoint, the idea has roots in cosmology and astrophysics. Stars live, die, and scatter their elements through space. Those same atoms form new stars, planets and eventually living organisms. In this sense, every human being is made of recycled stardust. Life itself becomes part of a cosmic ecosystem that constantly breaks down and rebuilds. Spiritually, the idea resembles reincarnation. Many belief systems teach that souls are reborn into new bodies after death, learning and evolving through each life. This concept can be both comforting and unsettling. On one hand, it implies that death is not final and that existence is eternal. On the other, it suggests that individuality may be temporary and that we might have lived countless lives before, only to repeat the cycle again. Some find meaning in this endless rebirth, while others fear it as a kind of cosmic trap. According to this theory, death is simply a change of form, a continuation of the same universal rhythm that has always existed. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned something, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the afterlife theories I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 2 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.